Chapter 8. The Calm Before the Storm. Fedor awoke in pain. His head hurt. His ankle throbbed. It felt like his entire body was bruised. But it did not feel as if he had been eaten, which was an immediate plus. He could hear panting and hoped it was the dogs. He opened his eyes. The sun was setting upon the very tips of the trees. Below, the richness of the forest had bleached into the monotones of twilight, and the crickets were strumming in the undergrowth. He was lying at the bottom of the dry riverbed, and Misha and Mikhail crouched nearby, their backs to him, ears pricked as they sniffed at the woods. He raised his hand to his head, and his fingers came away bright red. Great. The movement caught the dogs' attention, and they leapt up, fussing over him. "All right, dogs. I'm all right. Good dogs. Good dogs." He closed his eyes and mouth whilst they smothered him with canine kisses. When Fedor finally pushed himself off the ground, his vision swam, a wave of nausea rising. His father was going to have a field day with this. "You could have been killed," his mother fumed, raising his ankle onto her lap. She peeled away his boot. The joint had swollen into his footwear, and the two were reluctant to part. Thankfully, his father had not been home when he returned, but his mother's reaction was almost as bad. Where her fury came from concern, his father's would have been born of annoyance or disappointment, probably both. Alyona deposited a bottle of vodka in front of her son before pouring boiling water into a basin and fetching her first aid bag. It was far from the first time one of her boys had come home battered and bruised, though never before from wrestling a bear. "Drink, but only a sip." Fedor was only too happy to comply. What was it doing so close to the house? She stripped away his sock. The ankle was purple, but the skin was not broken, and he could wiggle all his toes. Just. The bins are sealed, the dogs eat indoors, and we're nowhere near winter. I just can't understand it. Fedor's hand strayed toward the vodka. For medicinal support, of course. "Oh no, that's enough of that. Now bend forward. Let me see your thick head." He closed his eyes, the warm water from the sponge running down his neck. "It's quite a bump." She felt around the lump. "But only a small cut. You'll be fine." Misha was sniffing his swollen ankle and licking it, whimpering. He was too tired to flinch, and the warm caress of her tongue was soothing. "You do realize your father will expect you to fetch the axe in the morning?" "Da. And I suppose you'll still need to pack for this trip." His head was beating like 1,000 drums, and the last thing he felt like now was packing, let alone going on this stupid training camp. Her demeanour softened, and Alyona kissed her son's forehead. "I tell you what, you hobble over there and light the fire. I'll bring a foot bath to soak that ankle, and then I'll pack your bag. You can check it over in the morning. Da?" "Spasibo, Mama," he whimpered, feeling very sorry for himself. He heaved his large frame out of the chair and shuffled into the lounge, Misha and Mikhail never leaving his side. Good dogs. It had been a long day. Joe sighed, long, hard, and with feeling. It had been a trying evening all round. First Bella, and now his mother, who had scattered half of his wardrobe around the room and currently held a massive stuffed toiletry bag under her arm. "I don't need all this," he rolled his eyes when a third plaid sleeveless cardigan was added to the pile. "Nono says it'll be just like summer camp. A few pairs of shorts, some shirts, a jacket, and hiking boots." How does he know? She held up 2 pairs of beige corduroy trousers. "What about your allergies? Your medicine, not to mention a spare pair of glasses. Have you packed a swimming costume? You'll need sun cream, SP50 at least." Joe flopped onto the bed, head in his hands. It was true. They had not been given a list. In fact, Reuben had been pretty vague on details. A 6-week course with a free weekend midway and a trip to the mysterious Inventors Fair at the end. They needed parental consent, basic necessities, and their wits. Wits Joe had in abundance. Check. How about an umbrella from deep within the wardrobe? Patience, on the other hand, he did not. He swore. Quietly. Veronique studied the book she had dismissed only hours ago. In the hall below, the ball continued in muffled reverie. Nicky, Monte Cristo, she sighed. Her father had tracked her down, probably with Aunt Bianca's help, and marched her upstairs at midnight. Your selection is a great honour, Veronique, and you will do your family proud, he had told her. It's time to put away this childishness. He indicated the costumes draped around the room and slammed the door. He was the reason she had created Nicky, her complex alter ego who could enjoy life without the pressure of carrying the family honour. It was not Nicky's fault that Veronique's father had no son. Nicky did not feel guilt. Nicky was free. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, with the books beside her, all finery forgotten, she picked up the worn deck of tarot cards and flipped the top one over. The Wheel of Fortune. The cards never offered an exact answer. The wheel had many potential meanings. She flipped over the next card. The world. A trend was forming, the end of a cycle of life and a pause before the next. There was one last card to turn. Her fingers trembled. The Magician. This felt a little more positive. She must embrace her talents and tap into her potential. Veronique flopped back onto the pillows and stared at the ceiling rose. She did not notice one final card slip from the deck and slide to the floor, coming to rest on the pile of masks beside her bed. The most well-known and misunderstood card in the tarot. The skeletal figure of death. Sam couldn't sleep. He lay in his bed, hands folded behind his head, feet shuffling. He had packed. A bulging bag awaited destinations unknown. The twins had hampered the process, taking great delight in removing clothes the second they were folded and stowed. "You're sure you want to go?" his mother had asked. "You don't have to. Not yet." Angelique was not ready to lose another child. Sam's teenage bravado had crushed any misgivings he might have had. "Of course. Dad said it will be like summer camp on steroids." His mother had not been impressed with that analogy. "Besides," Sam had gushed, "there's so much I want to know. A whole world that no one knows about, that I didn't know existed. And it's somewhere that I actually belong. I'm one of the few." "Well, just remember, not everything that glistens is gold. Oh, and there is a letter on your desk for you. Who's writing to you nowadays? Isn't everything DMs for you lot?" In his excitement, Sam had forgotten about the neatly addressed envelope, and it still lay unopened. He glanced over at the red display of the alarm clock. It was 1:17 a.m. He tried to clear his head, listening to the rise and fall of his chest, to his father's occasional snore drifting from across the hall through 2 closed doors. But his thoughts returned to the same words. If you fail, your family will not be able to remain in the order. Sam would not fail. This was his chance to find something real in the turmoil that had been his life since the fire. Tomorrow was going to be a big day. "You can leave your things here," Reuben told them. "Coats too, and you won't be needing those." He removed the bulky camera and safari binoculars from around Joe's neck. "Jennifer McLeod will be looking after you for the next 6 weeks. She's one of our best trainers and is eager to meet you. This way, please." After a twist and several turns through row upon row of bookshelf, the tour ended before an old wooden door near the back of the library. It was beautifully carved with an intricate storyboard, But Sam was given no time to study the carefully worked relief, as Reuben tugged it open. "Come along now, through here." Fedor stepped aside to allow Veronique through. "Merci," she smiled, squinting into the dark. The Russian boy followed, ducking under the doorframe. Joe was hanging back, unsure, so Sam gave him a nudge and a smile of encouragement. He caught Reuben's eye. "You're not coming?" "Oh, heavens no. I'm agoraphobic. Never leave the library if I can help it. I need an umbrella just to venture into the hall." He tittered nervously. Sam nodded, not sharing the joke. "Stick together," was the last instruction he heard before he followed Joe into the gloom.